and we've managed to get it going. Hello, adventurers, and welcome to another episode of our the Zulu's D&D stream. I am Rob. I'm one of the dungeon masters here. My shoulder is giving Zoom quite a bit of grief right now. I am joined. Oh, there we go. Just below me. Oh, my hand is gone now. Just below me is, of course, Alex, and then to my this side. There we go. Is Jason. So one of the things that I've heard and said many times for aspiring dungeon masters and players to a lesser extent is in the case that players decide to go off on their sort of wacky journeys as they are wont to do, or in the case that something comes up that you haven't really thought of, you're always told, "Well, just improvise." Like that is a simple thing to do, but the question becomes, what does that look like? And more importantly, what's going on up here while you're doing it? So what we're going to go ahead and do today is present, we're going to have some scenarios that we're going to go ahead and sort of do sort of a mock DMing through. We're not going to dive into the weeds from the minutia of from moment to moment, but rather sort of the overarching idea of how we would run a session with a very vague prompt. And of course, I'm going to be using one of my favorite books. Oh, that you can actually see this time. Yay! Table Fables. There is 100 different quest ideas on the quest table. It'll be relatively simple. We're going to roll our percentile, and then once we've done that, we're going to look at that number, the one above it, the one below it, and we'll kind of dive in. Now, the other people who are not currently DMing will be helping along the way by kind of doing as players truly do, which is to throw a monkey wrench into the plans and force you to sort of adapt to things on your feet. However, before we get too dove into there, I would also like to mention that next week there is going to be a dungeon out of time, as I believe what we're calling it. We're doing the winter break. We're doing a bit of an excursion. Do we want to talk about that at the end of the show, or do we want to just hit that at the top?
I'll just bring it up now, and then we can go into detail. But yeah, it's a young adventurers dungeon too. So throw that out there for. What is our age range?
Age range 8 to 17.
Yeah. Yep. So, a good thing to keep in mind. So
yeah. So Alex, why don't you tell us a little bit about the idea behind this, the shenanigans, I suppose we'll call it.
Right. The idea of the shenanigans. Well, it's going to be so. The idea is that we are able to have a whole bunch of kids sign up, so then they can be able to participate in a competition where we'll all three of us are going to have a dungeon. It'll be we're going to be encouraging you to work together so that you can be able to travel through the dungeon as far as you can possibly go. And I know that Jason has mentioned that we will be doing a point system so that whichever group gets the most amount of points by the end of the 2-hour session will be getting the prize. Now, the prize, that's
at the end of the week.
At the end of the week, we'll be getting
all the 2-hour sessions. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the week, once we figure out who has how many points and all that good stuff, we'll be able to send out some prizes. And the prizes will we'll be able to let you know you have won the miniature that you played.
Yeah.
Now, how would the group go about earning these points as they're playing through their session?
Jason, would you like to take that?
I'll take that one. So basically, getting through the room with you can find hidden things that can get bonus points. There are certain things that are hidden. Some of them are their own reward, such as magic items, but some of them will also gain you a bonus point as well. But also, getting through the room unscathed would be bonus points, definitely. You know, if you were able to avoid the traps or so on, or disarm the traps, or there's certain bonuses. Also, outthinking us. If you think of some direction that we just did not come up with, and you blindsided that room, that's a great thing for you, and that's bonus points for the team. You can also lose points, though. Yeah, you can lose points. Basically, you kind of start out as at least the way I'm setting up is a certain amount of points just for finishing the room, which you should do. But every time a character dies or bad things happen, they lose points. Now, the thing is, the dungeon has a built-in way of bringing you back in the next room. So we'll, so you're not completely out if you do end up being annihilated somehow.
A sphere of annihilation comes to mind. So the
Say
primary
that.
way of getting points is by succeeding at the challenge of the room and moving on to the next one.
Yes. Kind of
And
think
then
of
there's a variety of ways to gain extra points through other specific things, and you can also lose points for performing poorly. So you can't immediately abandon your teammates and try to just sprint for the end as quickly as you can. You have to work together as a team, which
Teamwork is not a thing.
is a lesson that everyone should learn for their D&D play. Remember, you're in this together. You're friends. Even the Dungeon Master is not necessarily against you, or they shouldn't be anyway. You're simply working together to create a fun and interesting narrative, which I think is a delightful segue back into... but before we do, if we wanted to find more information about this particular event, where would we go to find that?
Well, you can choose to either email us at zulusdnd@gmail.com, or you can check out our Facebook page to see the full post in itself. You can either check out our Facebook, or it's also on our Instagram as well.
Now, say I don't have social medias. Is there anywhere else I can go to find information about it? Like maybe the website? ZulusGames.com?
The website to be able to find some more information.
Alrighty. And that's under the D&D Sessions tab, right?
It will be, yeah.
Cool. Alrighty. So, working together to create fun and interesting narratives. Let's go ahead and dive into that. Who would like to be first, or do you want to roll all of our numbers so you can have some time to sort of ruminate on the ideas?
That's right. I can play with my dice.
And he just runs away. I think Alex wants to go first.
I think he does. Alex, go ahead and roll a percentile for me.
Perfect. All right.
Now we get to have the joyous fun of listening to me read badly.
No! I'm just going to throw dice everywhere on the ground. I'm going to grab another one. Wah! I got a 62.
62. I always love when kids roll percentiles because they'll make a lot of assumptions as we're going through, and generally it's for this book, so I'm like, the higher or lower the number is not bad or better. It's going to be something random. That being said, sometimes it is bad. So, ironically, actually, in the dreams, the high numbers are the bad stuff. I've gotten distracted. 62. An entire patrol of soldiers has gone missing in the deep forest. So that's 62. Also, apparently, reading not my strong suit. Oh goodness, I've lost my ear.
You are really disappearing all
the way out.
Oh, Rob's just ahead. Oh no!
Where'd my ear go? Oh, there it is.
Different types of technical difficulties. Always fun.
Right, exactly.
I have no idea what you're saying, but I have it back. All right.
Okay.
Welcome back. So, please forgive me. 62 is an entire patrol of soldiers has gone missing in the deep forest. 61, fake currency has flooded the market. The king himself has quickly hired the players to locate the source. That's actually an awesome idea. And then, of course, 63... A traveling merchant has been robbed. The merchant desperately hires the players to explain that the stolen items can prove dangerous in the wrong hands. So, which story would you like to wander down?
Am I going either having my adventurers go through the forest? Well, I kind of want to know, what are my players playing as? I know that we had made characters a while ago. I want to make sure that we know... So, what are you guys playing as?
I'll go first there. I'm going to be playing as Yorick Swiftwhistle. He is a halfling wizard with a little smattering of rogue. And he is a diviner, which he uses to... he's a very lazy halfling and prefers other people to do his work for him. So he looks for the opportunities that will enable him to rest and relax. So he's always looking for that big score. But yeah, at the same time, he's very, very, very lazy.
Eldon, just Eldon, is a gray dwarf. He is a druid of the spores. He's a little grubby, but otherwise relatively friendly, preferring the company of generally his mushrooms, his plants, and of course his undead minions.
All right. Well, so I basically asked that because one of the options was that there was a band of soldiers that go missing in the forest.
A patrol of soldiers gone missing in the deep forest.
It just so happens that I already had a forest pre-built. So obviously, I've got the little halfling wizard over here and the little dwarf. I don't know where my other dwarf druid went. However, I'm very excited about this. So we'll go ahead and have you guys patrol through the dark or through the scary forest.
And what's funny is, it's funny that you chose this particular thing, because I know that on multiple occasions I've picked particular storylines or situations purely based on the maps and miniatures that I have.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it kind of forces your hand sometimes.
Yeah.
You can just say
Like, well, I would love to run this adventure, but there's no way I'm going to be able to, to easily pull that off.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. All right. So you guys I would have already tried to explain through figuring out, like, hey, you guys are in a town, and then you hear through a town meeting that there was a patrol of soldiers that went into the forest to go and try and get some extra resources. However, you guys, well, you were assigned to go find them, by the town mayor, because, well, one guy is really grubby, and so he would definitely be able to survive in the forest just naturally through grabbing some extra spores. And then I'll offer the halfling a lot of extra. I'll offer the halfling some extra cash.
Cash, food, stay at the inn, whatever works. But understand that you wouldn't be able to do this without me. So I could probably pull a little bit extra out of that, right?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I would definitely make sure that I'd try to go towards what my players would like. Like,
I would of course be trying to go with some persuasion rolls or something to try and get more money out of it, and whether that takes it out of the other players' hands, I don't really particularly care.
And so then after we determine, like, the ability of you guys are gaining some sort of victory, I might. It depends on what the druid of the spores would want. Maybe I can hopefully help encourage him. Like,
he'll do it for mulch.
Yeah, you could have.
Well, I would say actually Eldon's motivation for this one would probably be the ability to go into the deep forest and sort of rummage around. And actually, as a DM, you would know that he was always looking for different components, so you could simply hint that there are interesting things that grow deep within the forest.
Oh yes, I would definitely be pulling that. And then as you guys are moving along, it's funny, I actually do have another storyline that I'm going to yank ideas from. Since I've already had other adventurers go through the deep forest, not necessarily searching for soldiers, but searching for something else. I would definitely hint at the idea and have you guys roll some sort of survival check, so then you can track down, see if you can find any, like, footprints or any sign of, like, other humanoids or other soldiers that may have possibly been here.
Cool. Oh yeah, totally. I was just kind of glancing at being able to search for it. I mean, granted, he's a druid, so he's going to be way more at home in the woods than me, a noble wizard, or kind of noble, as it were. But yeah, he is way better off in the deep forest.
What sort of power level are we imagining that we're at right now?
I would imagine. It depends on how scary you want to make the forest. If you want the forest to be insanely terrifying, you want to hike up the power level, be like 5, 6, maybe even 7. In my custom world, I do have a very scary forest that it's terrifying. If you haven't been there before, you can easily get lost.
Okay.
But
for this particular scenario, what level are you imagining us as?
Let's go at level 5. That way you guys are a little bit more powerful than just the average adventurer. You guys know you're able to hone in your skills, and so then after you guys are searching through the forest,
honestly, the first thing that my druid would think of is, I'm going to talk to the plants, see what they saw.
Heck yeah! So you'd cast Speak with Plants.
Yes.
All right. So when you cast Speak with
That's
Plants,
proper level.
honestly, I would probably have you. It's funny. I just did this today. So instead of an animal handling check, sometimes I might have you do, if I feel like making you roll, you haven't rolled in a while, I might have you do a plant handling check. It would be like a persuasion check, but for plants.
Okay.
So then after you do that, then you would be able to understand that the plants, they did not really like these soldiers that much. They were wearing too much clanky, loud armor. Everything was super shiny, reflecting off of them. But they will say that those shiny clankers went the other way.
Dang, those clankers. I got a bad case of the clankers one time.
Making a Star Wars reference, so I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then it would be up to you guys. Would you like to follow where the plants are suggesting that you go? Or would you like to just say, nah, I think it's this way?
I'm only useful with people. Plants and dead things are this guy's motif.
I would honestly be speculating that they're dead as well.
All right. And so upon the speculation that these plants are dead.
No. I'm guessing the druid's guessing that the people are dead. The patrol is.
Of course. And so then as you are going further along to check that out, you do see that there are going to be some. Now this is where I, as the DM, have to decide: do I want it to be super gruesome, or do I want it to be like, meh, they're just captured? I'm thinking that the clankers, they're just sitting in a pile, tied up.
Just in the middle of nowhere?
In the middle of, there's this clear opening, and there's obviously a circle of shrubbery all around, and they're just off to the side, not necessarily in the exact center, but the ground is flat and green, and there's a bunch of shrubbery that forms a sort of circle.
Well, clearly this is a trap.
Take a seat and cast Unseen Servant and just relax as I have it go and untie those guys and be like, realizing that this might be a possible threat. I'm just going to lean against the tree away from them, but still be able to see what's going on. See if my Unseen Servant can untie them or whatnot.
Yes, and then while you are doing that, I would actually be rolling against your guys' passive perception, just to see what exactly it is that you guys can see everywhere. It's not necessarily determining the stealth of an NPC, but it's so then I don't have to say roll a perception check, then make you guys think, there's an enemy sneaking about.
Yeah, my particular character has a low wisdom, so yeah. But as a druid, I would imagine the druid is a bit better off.
Relatively wise, yeah.
Yeah. And so I would assume that the halfling wizard would not pass the perception check. However, the druid would be able to pass it, and so you would see that in the center of the plane circle is a blue rose with sparkles.
Sparkly rose.
Blue.
So I'm going to proceed to pull out my pipe and see if I can blow any smoke rings.
I feel like at this point the druid would probably want. I'd probably want the halfling to stop with the untying, as I'm at this point very suspicious as to whether or not these guys are actually the things that we think that they are. I'd probably begin the examination process, so requesting that he give them a poke or a prod. Do I have any undead that I've managed to collect over time, or am I currently sans corpses?
I would imagine you could, since you were just in like a small town, it would be a little awkward to bring zombies around with you. But if you wanted to, is it just an action to summon a zombie or to summon a corpse, or like,
no, it's just animate dead.
Animate dead. Okay. So right now you don't have any corpses around.
Okay.
However, you could potentially, because I like to think that the Druid of the Spores would be kind of a strange abomination. If you wanted to have like a little mushroom person follow you around, I would totally be down for that.
Well, I mean, if it's a mushroom friend that I've had for any length of time, I'm not going to put it into a potentially dangerous spot. So the unseen servant will be fine to do tasks for us. Also, at this point, I think both of us have very clearly established that neither of us are going into this circle and are just watching from a distance.
Yeah.
Even if the people are screaming at us to let them out, no.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have the unseen servant tap one of them on their helmet or head, if whatever, you know, if they have a helmet, just dot, 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 just to try and like kind of see if they're awake and cognizant.
And as you are tapping on the helmet, you hear a loud clink, 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 but you don't see any reaction from the person.
Yeah, they're probably dead.
That would make sense.
Well, you know, the only thing we have left to do is loot their pockets.
That's
so I'm
true.
gonna have my unseen servant check their pockets for any monies or goods.
How much can an unseen servant lift?
I think it's like 10. I think it's pretty much the same as. I've got it. Hold on.
Pretty sure it's just 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Strength of 2.
And then, how far are the people away from the edge of the ring?
So they're like in the edge of the ring, but from the center to the edge of the ring is about 15 feet. And you do see that in the center of the ring is the blue rose.
Oh no, I remembered the blue rose. We'll get to that when we get to that. We got to figure out what's going on with these people first, though. I think honestly, at that point, a good old-fashioned thorn whip would be in order to yank one of these guys to me.
Are they all tied together or tied individually?
They are tied together, so it's a batch of 4.
Now, here's my question for you, Alex, as a DM. So I'm thorn whipping one of these guys to try and yank them towards me. Can I get all of them, or one of them, or does the tug not work?
So that does depend on on how well the unseen servant had untied the rope, because the rope did tie around all 4 of the soldiers.
So we just untie one and then yank it towards us.
Or maybe the unseen servant didn't roll well enough on his sleight of hand to untie a rope. So then I would have Jason roll a sleight of hand check to be able to figure out the rope, and it depends. If the unseen servant was able to succeed, then you can grab one of the legs of one of the people and drag one.
You know, in hindsight, I just realized, instead of using a full-on thorn whip, we could just take a rope and lasso them.
or have the unseen servant put it around them and then pull it.
See, I don't know why I went to the grab them with the spiky claw first, but I feel that might be
so cool.
I mean, it is definitely a violent way to bring someone over to you. So I think as of right now, the plan is rope with unseen servant to just drag the mass of people, whether or not we can untie them, out of the circle to examine them more carefully.
You got it.
Also, I imagine while all of this is happening, Jason's character is always like 10 to 15 feet behind me.
Yeah, no, I'm just relaxing. I probably pulled the pillow out of my pack and am relaxing. That's.
Of course, there's a pillow in your pack.
Right. And then at that moment, I would roll a passive perception check, so it would test against your guys' passive perception.
Wait, are you rolling a stealth against our passive perception?
Not necessarily. I'm not rolling a stealth because this creature is not being stealthy, but I'm rolling against your guys' passive perception to see if you are paying more attention to to pulling the ropes, or to paying attention to the rest of your surroundings. And so it depends on. So I'll go ahead and roll real fast, and it looks like I rolled pretty well. So I did roll higher than both of your passive perceptions. So you guys would be so focused on lassoing the 4 soldiers back over to you that I feel comfortable having another creature appear. But
so I'm dying of curiosity now. So you said you're rolling a d20 and comparing it to our passive perception.
Yes.
But you're not using stealth, so what are you adding to the d20 roll? Or is it just a straight d20 roll?
Oh, it's just a straight d20 roll.
Okay. So say we have a passive perception of 15, and you roll a 17. Does that mean we don't notice it?
You guys would not notice it if I rolled higher.
Okay. Interesting. See, this is fascinating for me because I like it. Okay, cool.
And it's also a way for me to. It was actually a method that Jason taught me a little while ago on how to. Right, I'm still at the very bottom. Okay, so it was a way that Jason was able to kind of hint at me a while ago that, like, oh yes, your players will be terrified if they see the DM rolling. And then I do that passive thing, and the players are terrified because sometimes, with the kids, we use a shared dice roller, and I will actually roll on that just to kind of freak them out a little bit, make them pay attention. Sometimes I'll roll really well, and they'll be like, Alex, what did you roll really well for? What did you roll really well for? I'm just
I did it earlier this evening. I had one of my players roll. I had them roll. I said, roll the percentile dice, and they rolled why? And I'm like, oh, just roll it. And they rolled, and I looked away from the screen and went, all right, okay, that's good to know. All right, moving on. And I was like, what happened? I was trying to. They're trying to be uneasy. Setting them up to be like nervous. The characters needed to be nervous for the scene. It was supposed to be like a fear effect, but it's much better when you can actually make the players fearful.
Okay. So you've been sort of setting the scene of the building tension with the kind of constant rolling that we're not sure what it's about.
I'm not really affected by fear, so I don't really care.
Yes, and then I can go on to describe that there is heavy breathing behind the halfling who did not notice, who was just busy taking a nap. And as you feel the presence of a very large creature, at least in comparison to you, Mr. Halfling, while you are just sitting there lying on your pillow, watching as the dwarf druid of spores is playing cowboy with these poor.
I'm just reeling him in. I'm letting the unseen servant do the tying. I'll just pull it in.
Of course. And so then, as you're waiting, you feel a heat, or you feel some sort of heat of a breath just breathing above you, looking down. you wish to ever just.
No, I'm just like, and I look up. You
look up and you see that there is a very large bear behind you. However, this bear is not just any normal bear. You can easily tell the difference between a regular bear, just a regular brown bear. You've done plenty of studies, and a special elven bear. And this is where the improvisation gets a little bit fun and tricksy, where you can have an elven bear that might have more hit points than a regular brown bear. But mounted atop the elven bear is one of the elves from the forest. Now, keep in mind, I haven't told you anything about. Go ahead.
Is he or she attractive?
She's insanely attractive. But in the whole, she's a stone cold, something I can't quite say on TV.
Unfortunately, while I would probably like her, I don't like elves because they're resistant to charm.
That makes your character about 30 times creepier. I'm just gonna say.
I don't know. I was gonna get the escort into the city, but you know what? She's not gonna show you. So I'm just gonna go. Yeah, we're looking for my cousin.
Is his name Vinny?
And then she will respond in Elvish. She will be responding in a...
Neither of our characters would know that.
What's up?
So neither of our characters would understand what she's saying.
Actually, I was looking at, the idea of my character actually did take... oh, no, I didn't. Never mind. I was originally putting him at 7th level, so I took a feat, and it was Linguist. Because I wanted the boost. But I didn't take it, so I don't have it. So you're right, I cannot.
What a shame.
But so either like it depends. So I'll go ahead and backtrack a little bit so I can explain a little bit more. If I had already known that neither of my players could speak Elvish, then I would definitely I would still be having this elf speak Elvish no matter what. Like even if my players know Elvish or they don't know Elvish, it would make it more. It would make it a little bit easier for them to understand if they spoke Elvish. But in the case that neither of you speak Elvish, which is right now.
I like that. I actually do. I have comprehend languages.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So Ashton,
I'm a diviner. Also, to throw it out there, I did take a feat, but it was lucky because I wanted to be the lucky diviner. So I am like just dumb luck, always like not failing.
Oh, and halflings with their ones that they get to reroll.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
just so lucky. That's a character that makes it very challenging for a DM.
Except for my character doesn't try to do much.
Just what they do try to do, they succeed at.
Yeah. You can use lucky to make other people roll again too.
Oh,
it's more the like, yeah. So it's more the everybody misses him.
Oh, of course, that sounds fantastic. So then, with that, if you know comprehend language, I would assume that you would immediately cast it.
Yeah.
So then you can understand her speaking. Now, I would try my very hardest to try and speak in a French accent, but I am very bad at French accents. I feel like French is like, or Elvish is like close-ish to French, or at least that's what it is in my head.
I can see it.
But it's still just a wonky, or Elvish is still a wonky language. I just need to go read more Lord of the Rings to be able to understand it. Or at least speak it, learn it, figure out the grammar. But anyhow, after you cast comprehend, do you have it as an action, or do you have it just as a ritual?
I have it as an action, just that's more.
I just love the idea of you being like, no, wait, just a second.
No, I didn't pick my spells, so I like
10 minutes later. So I guess what would be the difference between if he had it as an action versus as a ritual?
I'd have to cast as a ritual, be 10 minutes.
I mean, how would the NPCs react differently depending on which version he's casting?
Oh, that depends on the NPC. And this NPC, I would have you guys roll an immediate insight check to see if you guys can kind of read the vibe of this this hot elven lady on a bear.
Also, I have to ask, because you've mentioned this bear now a couple times.
Oh, yes.
What would you use for the stats for the bear?
So I would either use just a regular brown bear, or if I felt like going kind of crazy and so if I use a regular brown bear, let me go ahead and double check, just to make sure I wouldn't be murdering you guys. For the brown bear,
they're only CR3, I think. No, they're only CR1.
They're CR1. If I just wanted this to be just a simple brown bear, I would say I would go with the maximum hit points that this brown bear could possibly have. So instead of 30, it would be 40, 10 plus 12. So it would be 52. And then otherwise, I would just use a lot of the regular stats. Because you guys are 5th level and this is a magical elven brown bear, I might increase the armor class to be like 12 or 13 instead of 11.
Okay.
Just for the sheer fact that this elven bear has gone through the elven bear training, but it also passed the bare minimum.
Oh.
And I would try so hard to give as many cheesy, corny explanations to my players to try to understand things.
Okay.
Goody.
It hurts. Oh.
No, I feel like that hurt for just a moment.
Just a little bit. It's not the end of the
hurting.
world, but so just also out of curiosity, are the people actually alive? As I pull them out of the thing.
So as you pull them out of the thing, you don't hear them speaking anything. You just hear bodies just dragging across the ground.
Yeah. So as I pull their helmets off, are they dead?
You pull their helmets off, and well, they could be dead or they could just be unconscious. I'd have you guys roll a medicine check to see if they're just unconscious.
Okay.
I would keep them as unconscious because that is a part of another thing that I haven't even gotten to yet. So
Oh.
while we've been talking about all this stuff, in the back of my mind, I've had a plan for the elves. As soon as you guys arrived in this circle, I've had a plan in the back of my mind. So that's why I'm like, I can't quite outright tell you. You got to check in on them. Just got to pat them on the face, be like, "Oh, you okay? Are you okay?" Just medicine check. Make sure they're alive.
Yeah.
I am going to, while this is all going on, he's checking that out. I am going to put a small. I carry some polished rocks in my pocket. I'm going to slide a hand one into like one of her pockets. I'm going to be like, "Nice bear," like petting it, and then slide one of these shined stones into her pocket. They don't look like much of anything, but I can use it for locate object later if I need to find her.
That would be amazing. Now,
Yeah.
for the comprehend language, I want to go back to that real fast.
Yeah.
Are you only able to cast it as a ritual?
I currently have it readied. So.
Okay, so having it ready, you can cast it as an action. Well, bam. So that's right. Okay, so you are able to understand, and she's explaining that. What are you doing interrupting the ritual?
Oh, is this some elven religious thing? Well, we're just we're just trying to help people. We're helpers by nature, as you can tell. And what ritual? So yeah,
The ritual, and then I would I'd have her explain a little bit more of just the ritual of feeding the fairies.
Feeding the fairies.
okay, that sounds ominous. Nice. All right. Well, then, yeah, that's that. I don't like that.
You want to feed the fairies? I just real quick before we get too far off it. What if A, we didn't speak Elven, and B, we didn't have comprehend languages as a possibility?
Oh, then I would have you guys be rolling an insight check to see if you can understand what in the world, like what kind of body language is she giving off?
Okay.
Like is she
So
looking
more
at
more
this?
pantomiming and trying to read the room kind of thing.
Exactly. It wouldn't be
Okay.
like yeah. So it would just be like I think you don't like us. I think we need to leave, or you know what? I think she wants to hang out with us. I think she's cool with us. Depends on how well or poorly you guys roll an insight check.
All right.
But since you have Jorik as the magician that knows comprehend language by the snap of his fingers, the elf is able to explain, no, we feed the fairies so that the fairies don't eat everything.
How
So
big are these fairies?
She'll pat her bear, who is probably about like 5-6 times the size of you. You're a halfling, you're a little small. But she pats the bear and says, 3 times his size.
All right, these aren't sprites.
I think she's not using fairies the same way we use the word fairies.
Yeah. No.
That'll also be another thing about the difference between her culture and like language of Elvish versus your guys' like culture and language of Elvish to understand fairies.
Okay. Yeah. They normally eat people.
Yes, a lot of times it's weary travelers. The creatures of the forest are, well, creatures of the forest. Why would the fairies be eating them?
What about? So, do they eat trees and the plants and the like, or are they strictly carnivorous?
Oh, strictly humanoids.
All right, that's a good thing to know. All right, I'll keep that in mind. Animals not in the list, then she won't eat the.
Not
they
at
won't
all.
eat the bear. Oh.
What's up?
They won't eat They won't eat your bear.
Oh
I was
no,
just
my
saying-
bear is safe. Go ahead.
Just as a curiosity, Alex, is your intention for us to eventually fight these? Better question, like, if we decide to fight the fairies, is this a thing that you would be prepared for? And if you don't want us to, how would you try to lead us away from fighting the fairies?
Honestly, I leave it as much of an open world for you guys as possible. If you really did want to fight the fairy, it would be a very challenging battle. However, depending on my mood, most likely you guys would survive. I would either, if you guys chose to fight the fairy, I could give you guys a way out, as in you guys are getting just wailed on by this fairy. Or if you wanted to try and convince the fairy to try eating something else.
Okay,
See if
so
the fairies eat something other than just humanoids.
Gotcha. Did you have a stat block in mind for this fairy that you were, or would it be something you'd sort of make up on the spot?
It would definitely be something that I would make up on the spot, but I would base it off of an owlbear, except instead of using the owlbear's 59 hit points or a maximum of 91, because this would be a very big boss, it would probably be like 120, 150.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that is for this particular fairy that I've already had in mind, in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
But if it were for some other creature, then I would look at other stat blocks. I just like the stats of an owlbear, and I think that they're freaking awesome. I mean, look at those.
That makes kind of sense.
Look at those things. They're adorable.
Yeah. And so, for the kind of the story in general, would it be kind of, if we did decide that we wanted to try and fight these fairies, would it then become like a gearing up for it kind of thing? Would the elves help us, or would it be, say we chose the path of destruction? Like, what would that sort of look like for a session?
Yes, so if you chose the path of destruction, I would give you guys the chance to either find a way to wake up the soldiers. Like, really do try to like either cure wounds, because right now you haven't determined whether or not they're dead or alive. They're just unconscious.
Yeah.
So if you guys went through the path of destruction, I would make them unconscious. So then you guys would just have to like slap them awake a little bit. And then I would use the stats for like either a town guard or even a knight, but except a lot weaker, because they've already been beaten on. And I want you guys to feel like the superhero, or I want you guys to feel like the heroes of the story, the ones to save the town from the evil fairies that are running rampant through the forest.
Yeah.
But if you guys went the path of
diplomacy,
or if you went the path of trying to find some other food, I would wait for you guys to be able to like ask. Since you have already asked, is it strictly just humanoid? I would try and encourage the idea of what if this fairy has only tried humanoids? What if this creature could try something else, like a soup?
So then we're cooking for the fairy to try and convince it not to eat people.
Or what if we convinced them, like if I decided that these elves are being kind of, racist by just choosing random other races, what if I convinced the fairies to eat elves?
Ooh, that would be so good. I like that idea, and that's outsmarting the DM. So I would definitely have you roll either a persuasion check. I just saw your stat of a persuasion +8. I'd have you roll a persuasion check if you do run into the fairy. So if you want to wait to run into the fairy for the ritual, I would give you the option to.
Okay.
And then try your hardest to convince the fairy.
Yeah, my first thing would be to find out how intelligent the elves thought this thing was, and how many of them there are, and whether or not they'd ever tried, feel out the situation. Also to see if then also if they have any access to money or these fairies, or if the elves do, because after the elves are eaten, they will leave behind a lot of things. I'm not necessarily a genocidal person, but
but you might.
But my compatriot can just bring them back from the dead. So technically, they're not really dead. They're just different.
Oh no, they're dead. I'm just using their bodies as puppets.
That's how I look at it.
I actually really do like that, and I really like that. And the idea that I have for these elves, these random elves in the forest, is they don't have any sort of money like how the town does. they do things based off of favors and how well respected you are and just honorable honor stuff. So that could be a point of contention between you and the elves because they don't have any money to give you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If I were to, they don't have anything worthwhile. Then
So why not fix the fairy?
it's a matter of thinking. Like, if I thought if the elves annoyed me, I might consider the backup plan of suggesting them as an alternative food source. But the other option is that maybe there's a possibility of where do these fairies live? I assume the Feywild.
Yes, the fairies live in the Feywild, and the reason why they are able to come here is actually from that blue rose.
So if there's a possibility of somehow like reversing it to block the entrance.
I would say also how would we discover the rose is the point of power, or would that be something we would meant to be discovered?
So if you were able to understand the elf, and you were to just ask her like, where's the fairy coming from, she would be able to point to the rose. Or if you chose the path of destruction and wanted to destroy the fairy, you would see that the fairy would literally be crawling out of the rose and start growing and growing in size. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So why wouldn't we just pick the flower?
If you pick the flower, then you're good.
Yeah. Stomp it. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we keep it small. It would be a nice, vicious little pet demon.
You could have a very lovely flower. It could be very beautiful and just amazing, and you could
I was thinking this demon fairy owlbear thing that only gets that big. I mean, come on. We can merchandise these things.
Pluck the flower as it's halfway out. Is there a scenario where we can work with both the because my first thought was, well, we gotta find a way to get something from both the elves and the town.
Yeah,
because that'd probably be the first thing we'd try to do. So I guess would the elves be and the town be sort of antithesis to each other?
So the town wouldn't know about the elves because the elves don't leave the forest. They just stay there. They don't. These are a weird type of elves. They only stay in this forest.
They're hillbillies.
Wood elves.
They're the hillbilly wood elves.
They're the woodbillies.
Give them a southern.
They're from the deep south woods.
Okay.
The deep southern woods.
Yes.
Yes. So
Now,
I would say that to you
like
guys.
Cajun, that's the French influence. They're
the Cajun elves.
yeah.
So for something like this, would you
want some lobster with that?
would you want to try and get this to be a story arc that we could do over a single session, or would you kind of just see how long it ended up taking for us to figure out this fairy thing?
Honestly, I'm thinking that this would be more of a single session sort of deal.
Okay.
Because you guys are powerful enough that you can protect yourselves against these crazy fairies. And then after you solve the problem with after you solve the problem with the first fairy and this blue rose, then I also have some extra fuel. So let's say you guys do pick up the rose, so then you can theoretically market the rose of an owlbear in a glass. Or owlbear in a vase. So then that would actually be a point of contention between the elves and yourselves. So I would tie in for the next session or for the next one shot that we do. It would be that the elves, if you guys pick up the rose, the elves, they want the rose back, but they won't be able to communicate their ideas correctly to you. So they're going to either try and, in the next session, next week or so, they would try and hunt you down, find you in the town, probably murder you a little bit, and then take the rose back. But that's their plan if you guys take the rose. However, if you go the path of complete and utter destruction, just stomp out the rose, you guys are having a whole forest of elves trying to hunt you down.
So basically, if we mess with the rose, the elves don't like us.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But if
we bring the humans back, the humans will like us, and they don't like I guess one of the other things I would try to figure out is if the elves are willing to leave the deep woods. If they're not willing to leave the deep woods, all right, bye.
Later.
Now they might only be willing to leave the deep woods if we take the flower, so that could be an issue. But is there anybody we don't like? We can always give the flower to them.
So essentially use the flower like a weapon.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, it depends on how much you
Imagine
guys
my character has a long list of enemies, so it's just that like, oh yeah, that person didn't give me a dessert after I asked for a refund or whatever.
Now, hear me out, Alex. So let's say we go very much antagonists in this one, because I mean, from the sounds of it, our characters are not good people. Let's be frank. So we've decided we're going to try to use this rose to take this town hostage.
Wow.
So here's what we do. Hear me out. We're going to take the rose under cover of night, presumably while they're not looking, sneak back to the town with the people, get the money for the people, and then be like, hey, we'd like to sell you this beautiful rose. Then we return to the elves and be like, man, the humans stole your rose. That's sure a real bummer. Then head back to the humans and be like, hey, so, man, the elves are going to come get you. We can help you, but it's going to be hard. We're going to need that rose back. We're keeping our money, though.
Racist elves, man, they hate humans. But the other thing is my character, I purposely made him so he's a wizard / rogue, so my expertise is in deception and persuasion.
But I would ask, who's going to be the guy to actually pick up a rose? Who's the stealthy one in your group?
Druid.
Well, I'm not stealthy.
I have a bunch of illusions, so I can create an illusion of something like, if I get a really good description of what these creatures look like or the noises they make, I can make a distraction far away, and he can grab the rose and, well, leg it as far as dwarf legs can carry him.
Just to say, not terribly fast. Although yeah. I would have a wild shape, so I can turn into something that's faster at least.
Oh yeah.
Yes, and you're a halfling. I just turned into something with a particularly quick land speed. Boop, on the back. We haul butt.
Yes,
turn into a deer or something. You're out.
Yeah.
I would love that idea.
Why are characters so evil?
You would have to use Jork's smooth talking ability of how to convince the town that they want to buy this rose. But you have to make sure that you gotta determine who might possibly know about these roses. Most of the people won't. Just don't sell it to an old guy. He might actually know because he's like supposed to be old and wise or something. So if you sell it to a little kid, way to go. Bob's your uncle. You can head out of town.
No. We'd need to sell it to someone high up in the town so that we could get the best money for it. And then convince the elves that they were holding it. So I guess the other question is, would the elves attack us immediately if we touch? Like, would we get the sense from the elves that touching the rose is very, very bad?
Oh yes, you would definitely get this.
Okay.
If you picked up a rose in front of them. Now the problem is,
are there more than one of these?
You've only seen one elf.
No, more than one rose.
No,
more than one rose? So you've only seen one rose.
That would definitely be part of my little semi-interrogation.
Exactly. And so in my mind, I would have that there are different roses for different fairies. And so for this one particular fairy, this
is
one
the
particular
Carnivorous
fairy,
Fairy.
though... What's up?
This is the Carnivorous Fairy?
Oh, this particular fairy is a very powerful fairy that the elves really respect, and they do not want to be messing with. So that's why they really want to make sure this fairy is fed well with a whole bunch of humanoids who get lost in a forest.
I like it.
Yeah. And so then, real quick, I want to determine, did you guys, what path did you guys end up taking? Did you want to...
I mean, let's be honest. Just from the sounds of our two characters, we're going to try and milk both parties out of as much as we possibly can, probably by using the rose as sort of a way to sort of move the two parties around.
I can use my unseen servant to take the rose, right? Create the distraction and then make the illusion the rose is still there, so we have plenty of time
To get away.
to pull.
I probably still
Unless they can sense it.
I'd still probably have you guys roll a few stealth checks so then you can travel through the forest, but using your spells and using your abilities will make this job so much easier. It'll make this heist so much easier. The heist of the Blue Rose.
we went from, we got to save some guards in the town, to, we're holding the town hostage with a rose.
Hey man, things go crazy in my campaigns.
No, it's true, and I think as a DM, that's like, this is a beautiful example of a very simple premise has ballooned into such a strange and wild scenario, and I think that in many ways this is kind of what it means to, as a DM, sort of improv with things. Is, you know, just see where it goes, see how things play out. That's why I kept asking you, like, if I'm going to attack things, what monster are you going to use? Because that's for me, I run into that problem all the time. I never have the right monster. So like, I describe this cool, crazy thing, and they're like, I'm going to fight it. I'm like, I don't... it's got some hit points, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So, but if we were to be running a game, of course, I wouldn't be answering those questions. These are just questions from one DM to another DM.
Yeah.
But if you were the player, I'd be like, I'm not telling you.
Yeah, of course. Actually, I guess that this wasn't necessarily clear. So that is a good point, and I think it is important to leave a level of mystery to your players. You know, keep the cards sort of close to the chest, so to speak, because like the one shot we did this weekend, the whole thing was the wizard was trapped in a painting, and he was his simulacrum was collecting heroes to try and get him out, but for whatever reason, the simulacrum didn't want to mention that it wasn't real, and so I just made him super sus the whole time, and like describing odd things, like he's much sweatier than he was supposed to be, and obviously he can't just use locate object to find the keys to open the door, and so yeah. Part of it's a simple premise. Get the MacGuffins to open the door to get the wizard out. But it's as the players are sort of unfolding those ideas, that can be the kind of the fun of the mystery. And as a DM with mysteries and stuff like this, you don't have to necessarily make these intricate, complex, complicated plans. If we had been playing this out, discovering the fact that there are these weird, like, monster things that come out of roses that are extra-dimensional planes to the Feywild, like, that's nuts. That would be a very interesting story to unfold, I think.
I do also want to preface, I use a little bit of some, like, my own lore and knowledge, and just be like, what would be weird? This would be weird! Woohoo! So then, if, like, most DMs are probably not going to be this weird or crazy.
It's all improv. It's like you end up with it was like I don't know. It makes a weird logic in D&D sense, you know.
Right.
I mean, you're within the realm of, like, you know, you're improvising, but as long as you're consistent, I think that's the biggest thing. Is you knew what you were doing, you knew, like, you're using the owl, that kind of thing, that kind of like vague idea. You knew what the creature was, you know, going in. You're keeping it there, and we can investigate and find out and kind of, you know, see what we're gonna do, and that's the monkey wrench, because we were, you know.
Because we immediately decided that we were going to weaponize this weird rose.
Why not? I mean, I don't blame you guys. This weird rose has a whole bunch of power. It leashes a fairy who's hungry.
Also, your definition of fairy is delightfully monstrous. Reminds me a little bit of the labyrinth. The fairies that are essentially pests and will bite. Actually, you brought up a really good point with the whole kind of going with what you feel, because I know that a lot of people can be very intimidated by, like, sort of pre-established lore and pre-established sort of worlds, and you know, it's your world as a DM. It's your world. You get to decide what the rules are ultimately. But again, once you've decided that they're the way they are, do stay consistent. Otherwise, your players will immediately begin to. I don't know. Yeah, so the revolt, that sort of thing.
You also want to make sure that you follow, like how you were mentioning, you want to follow the world or that you develop and whatnot. So in my world, I've already got, like, I kind of ran you guys through like an adventure I've already run. I mean, I didn't have players actually like stop a sacrifice or anything, but in my world, I'm gonna show a picture right next to me in 3, 2, and 1. In my world, this is what I consider as a fairy. This is gonna be a scary bear fairy. That's why I wanted to take the idea of an owl bear. And to use cats if you guys wanted to fight this monstrosity in the beam.
I like it. Yeah. I think we've unfortunately reached the end of our time, but I thought that was a delightful sort of experiment in kind of seeing how a story goes. And the final thing you mentioned, the kind of, this is partially based on a previous adventure. I think as long as the players haven't seen it before, draw from what you know. Narratives, other things, previous stories that you've run. I think building that narrative and adapting it to the players as you go is something that, while it does take a lot of practice, is something that I think all you DMs can do. And I think, do you want to do this again next week with you, Jason?
Sure. I've got whole groups that are terrified of this thing. Because they're like, oh my god, it's really big. It's really scary.
It is a big, scary monster. So, I keep losing my shoulder. There it is. It's back. All right. Well, that was a good one. It was a fun one. Thanks everybody for listening. Next week, we'll have Jason run us through something interesting, and then we'll sort of go from there. Also, if you guys would be interested in seeing us play D&D on a regular basis, instead of this more sort of theoretical thing, we'll actually dive into the weeds and play it. Go ahead and let us know. Hop on the Facebook, send us a message, send any messages to the Zulus D&D, or if you want to hop on the Discord, go ahead and send us a message there. You can get to that by going to zulusgames.com, go to community, and there will be a link that'll get you right into the Discord. But until then, stay safe out there, everyone. Have lovely adventures, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.